Hello spooky people and welcome to In the Maw of Thanatos, where I talk about all types of horror, both old and new, because that's what I do. This time I'm looking at a little movie from good old Blighty, about the love between a man and his teddy. The purest love there is when you're a kid, so cuddle up with your bestest, oldest friend to the end, as I talk about Benny Loves You. Not to be confused with Benny Loves Killing. So an introduction before I begin the synopsis. This is Clowny. I've had him since I was a baby, and this film will perfectly explain why I still have him. Yes, I know, I'm a man-child, but I have a YouTube channel, so how is that a surprise? At the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to a precious little darling the day before her birthday. She's demanding her birthday presents early from her mother, and just doing a fantastic job at selling the idea of having kids. Anyway, she gets her way because kids these days, am I right? Huh. Her mom, who looks like she's at the end of her rope, finds the girl's old favourite bear, Todd, and tries to give it back to the girl.
You're special.
I don't like him anymore.
That night, after she's been put to bed, a spooky mist emanates from the toy box. A crash of thunder, and Todd is alive. The girl screams after she sees him, and her mother comes in. Whilst her mother looks up whether she can use corporal punishment, Todd scares the little girl again, and
I said, shut it!
I honestly don't know why seeing kids get hurt is so funny. But it is. Let's be honest. Todd then kills the girl, and even though we've known her for probably 10 minutes, it couldn't have happened to a nicer brat. Now that we've established the how, we can get into the story proper.
Hello. As you know, my name is Clowny. How original our gracious host is. I'm sitting here because Mr. Moore is a forgetful sort and neglected to mention that the children's toys come to life when they are forgotten about or thrown away. For revenge. Thank you for listening. I now return you to this silly little review. Ta-ta!
Jack Cal Holt is a 34-year-old man-child whose job is not going so good.
Dancing Disco AIDS!
Yeah, okay, that's my toy.
He's unlucky in love, and
You live with your fucking parents, babes.
we get to meet his parents briefly at his 35th birthday party, before they end up dying in a series of mishaps. The film jumps forward 10 months, and it's clear that Jack is struggling in general, as well as to make payments on the house he's inherited from his parents. His account manager comes round to negotiate a loan, and when I say negotiate, he has no real option, other than to sign, which he does, begrudgingly. The film then plays with us a little bit, and gives us a hint that maybe Jack's mental state is starting to break. Later, Jack is working late in the office, trying to design his next toy after the failure of his robot. Richard appears.
It's Rashard, actually.
Richard appears and is celebrating the success of his robot, Roscoe. As well as a promotion, Richard gloats over his success and Jack's failings, and there's a bit of funny back and forth between them.
God, I hate people who pronounce it Richard.
You're not even French.
So? No one calls Ray Fiennes Ralph.
Because he's Welsh.
Then Richard says that their boss, Ron, is looking for Jack. After a tense game of cat and mouse, Jack finds himself in Ron's office. Ron gives him a serious dressing down over his childishness in terms of his outward appearance, and that he lacks drive. Ultimately, Ron fires Jack.
You're not from my organisation, so you're fired.
Then immediately rehires him in a junior position. Jack decides that it's finally time for him to grow up, and he begins by putting his childhood home up for sale, and boxing up his toys and posters and other stuff, including his childhood best friend, Benny.
This is Benny. As long as you have him by your side, nothing can ever hurt you.
Not even the demons in the hallway.
Apart from them.
Benny comes to life and murders all of Jack's other toys. Jack freaks out and calls the police, who actually come over. They interview him and we learn that he's a loner, although I think they're mostly there for the biscuits.
Oh, custard creams. I love custard creams.
Ron has given Jack until Friday to come up with the next big thing. Oh no! Friday rolls around and Jack has nothing to show for it. When Ron asks where the work is, Dawn, the senior project engineer, swoops in to save him and make it really obvious that she's got a thing for Jack. She's a woman who knows what she wants, and that's a bit of the Jack.
I'm your lady. Well, I'm no lady. You provide the toys, I provide the back end. Dawn.
Later that day, the account manager comes to see Jack after he misses a payment on his loan. There's a nice little reference to It or Halloween. Not sure which one it is, maybe both, because, you know, killers standing behind sheets on washing lines is fairly ubiquitous, I think. But it still looks cool. Benny kills him and redecorates the house with blood and entrails and, well, lots of things. And then Jack wakes up with the accountant's head in his bed. And just at that moment, the police turn up to pick up their camera that they left from their previous visit and to ask Jack a few more questions. Jack cleans up the murder scene as best he can and lets the police in, and after narrowly escaping getting caught, Jack finally sees that Benny is alive. They make friends and Jack sets some ground rules. Then they bury the body. As they bond, Jack is struck by inspiration and he comes up with scare bears.
Cuddly, robotic killers. A whole universe. They've got different personalities, weapons, outfits, they can talk to each other, interact, they can even fight. Well, this could be huge.
A series of toys that I would love to own. We get a lovely heartwarming montage of Jack finally succeeding at life, getting closer to Dawn, and getting closer to Benny. And then for some reason, Jack agrees to have a date round at his house with Dawn, and look after Ron's dog Precious, all on the same night. Uh-oh. But before any of that nightmare can transpire, an old girlfriend of Jack's turns up to view the house looking to buy it. It does not go well.
Nothing to be afraid of here.
After burying yet another body in the garden, Jack prepares the most romantic of all meals, baked beans and chips. The pair discuss their traumatic histories, and Ron drops off his Precious. You can probably guess how well this plays out. From there, Jack's life begins to fall apart. Rashad takes over the Scare Bears project, obviously gets fired from his job, and he's ready to kill Benny. But Benny is doing it all out of love and jealousy, and he's throwing a birthday party for Jack. Anyway, after another argument, Benny comes up with a plan to fix things by kidnapping Ron. However, it does go in Jack's favour. He finally grows a spine and negotiates his re-employment and promotion. Just one problem.
You love being my bitch.
I love being your bitch.
That's the final straw for Jack, and he buries Benny in a box in the woods.
Yeah? Well, Jack hates you.
If you want to know what happens next, then you're just going to have to go and watch the film. Benny Loves You was written, directed, produced, and stars Carl Holt. Now, some might take that to mean that this is purely a vanity project, and that may be true of lesser films, and having been involved in a couple of vanity projects myself, I would definitely have to say that it's clear that this film was driven by so much more than vanity. The film was made for an estimated $10 million, and unfortunately, like most indie films, it was a bit difficult to find out background information, as well as how much it made in the end. Benny won Best Film in the First Blood category at 2020's Fright Fest Festival. The category is aimed at finding up-and-coming talent from the UK and Ireland. It did win a few other awards at other festivals, but since this is a British channel, Fright Fest is the important one. Production began in 2014 and finished in 2015, and it expanded on what Holt had covered in his 2006 short, Eddie Loves You. It took a while for the film to be finished, as Holt decided to edit, score, and create the visual effects for the film himself. Speaking of the effects, I have to say that I was honestly shocked at how good they were. Seriously. I was expecting trash, to be honest, and instead, well, see for yourself. There are a couple of places where they're a little ropey or blatant, but mostly they are superb and in keeping with the overall tone and look of the film. While the effects aren't to the level of something like, say, Child's Play.
I just can't with this guy. I don't know whether to kill him or just take notes.
Benny does look like he's part of the world, and the way that he moves through it, although not realistic, adds a perfect playful flavour to his character. Jack, who's played by Holt, is a very likeable protagonist, and Holt manages to play it effectively to make you question the actual reality of the story. Is Benny alive, or is it all in his head? Dawn, Claire Cartwright, is an unwilling yet strong player in the events. She's well written, and Cartwright helps to flesh out a character who could quite easily have just been a vapid love interest with nothing to add. But she isn't. James Parsons and George Colley, Ron and Richard, respectively, play great antagonists to Holt's lost and childish Jack. Not to get too analytical, but I think that they represent the confrontational way that life can seem as it drags you into adulthood, by hook or by crook. They're funny and interesting foils for our protagonist. As this is a comedy horror, I do feel like I have to at least mention the jokes. Whilst not all of them land, I mean, I can't think of many pure comedies that succeed at that when that's their only job. The jokes in this are funny, and they made me laugh out loud on multiple occasions. Now, I wouldn't say that the film is scary. I think it leans a little bit too heavily on the comedy aspect of the script. But it is fairly gory, so not one for the squeamish, I suppose. It isn't gratuitous in its gore. This isn't a splatter film, but it certainly doesn't shy away from the red stuff.
He's not.
Benny is a lovable little monster. He's not a cursed doll in the sense of Chucky, where it's an actual soul in there. He's just alive, so all of his communication is restricted to the pre-programmed sentences that he has within him, which is kind of cool, and it adds to his character because he has to communicate with just a select bunch of sayings and phrases, which in our house have taken over. We're always saying Benny lines all the time, and half the time we don't even realise it. He's a villain that isn't purely driven by hate or malice. He loves Jack, and all of the killings that he does are for the good of Jack. They're either to protect him or punish someone who's hurt Jack, or this is the negative side of the relationship, I suppose, or he's jealous. But everything that Benny does is out of love. He's just a cool little character, and whilst he may not appear threatening, he's certainly dangerous. So, would I recommend Benny Loves You? Abso-friggin-lutely. If you're in the mood for a quirky British horror film, then go watch it. If you're looking for something scary or more serious, then probably don't put this on. Otherwise, chill out and have a laugh as Benny carves his way into your heart. I had a really good time with this film. It surprisingly made me laugh quite a few times. I was a bit worried when I first started it because, you know, low budget horror things sometimes can be a little bit draining, especially comedy horror, but this actually succeeded. I've watched it a couple of times now, and on both occasions I still laughed at the same spots, and I still enjoyed it just as much as the first time. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe and comment your thoughts down below. Remember to stay safe, stay weird, and most importantly, stay spooky. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. What's going on with the lights? Ah! Ah! Ah!